manage it all on his own.
Wow.
So
how was he dealing with it? I mean, how did he accept it, or did he not?
are you talking about Rusty or Anthony?
Rusty.
Rusty. He seemed to be pretty accepting of the Alzheimer's and wanted other people to be more accepting and not to sort of, you know, I think most of us who were in touch with him at the time were feeling very, just having a hard time accepting it, I think. And at that point, he had had a lot of things that pulled him toward having the tests for Alzheimer's for well over a year, and things, you know, that were pointing towards something neurological were just making life more difficult for him. And then he did get the final diagnosis, and I think that he was trying very hard to accept it, and I think that he did. I think it's the physical issues that came into play with the liver disease that just complicated it quite a lot for him. Because then there were other things, not just the Alzheimer's. You know, he actually, I mean, the last conversation that Pete and I had with him was about a month ago, and on the phone, and he had not lost his mental capacity, really. It was
same here.
Weakness. You too, Mimi, right?
Yeah, I spoke with him about 3 weeks before he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was slurring his words, but I think that was because they had him on medications.
Right.
And he was clear as a bell in his thinking, his memory.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
when I first talked to him, I guess it's about a year ago, when he first learned about it, or when I first learned, he said that he wasn't himself, but he had showed no signs of it, you know, with me. But Rusty was so sharp that he could lose 50%, you know, and still be really sharp, you know.
Right.
God, it's just like it's surreal, you know.
it really is, and it did happen very fast. I think I don't know if you agree with me, Mimi, but it seemed like the progression of it, once he had these physical symptoms that were very debilitating in the fall, really.
Yeah.
Because Tammy and T went to see him in September for his birthday, and you know, they had a good visit, but he was very limited in what he could do, you know. So, and getting around, and he began to have problems falling, you know, and just really not able to do the kinds of things that he was able to do for such a long time.
Right. And my understanding was, sorry, go ahead. That he was able to do Lisa's wedding.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, but I think that was difficult for him.
Okay.
Is what I understand. But
it was the beginning of the symptoms of the liver disease.
Okay.
Were around the time of Lisa's wedding. So he had a lot of discomfort. You know, they hadn't really figured out how to deal with fluid buildup and things like that. So it was
talk about, let me just let another person in. Did he talk about an afterlife with you, or with you, Mimi?
I actually, you know, years ago, do you remember when he had that serious back pain, the diverticulitis it turned out to be?
Yeah.
He said to me at that point, you know, if I'm going to die, I've had a great life. He didn't really talk about his expectations for it, no. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, hi.
Mimi and Shirley, we haven't seen them.
Oh, no, right.
How are you?
I don't know.
Here we
It's been
are.
5 years. or
We'll
more.
introduce you to Pat DiBuono, who came in. We'll probably have about 15 people, I think.
Are you still living in Queens?
We are in Astoria. Yep.
Friends of ours, this is Pat DiBuono in the other quadrant there. And Pat is a friend from Harrison. And
Hi.
Shirley is a friend from St. John's, and knew Rusty Hesse, who just passed away. And so is Mimi right above Shirley, who's waving right now. And we all were very close. Rusty.
You guys were members before we were, I think. Both of you, right?
Yeah, well, Rusty's my son's godfather.
Oh,
And my daughter's godfather.
That's right.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they're god
Oh, he was
siblings.
part of your
Yeah.
family, actual family. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Shirley's known Rusty longer than any of us.
Well, 23 years old. he
Yeah,
was
I
when we met him.
remember those stories that he would
Yeah.
come and see you, right? And
Yeah.
Rusty was a very special. Maybe we can tell. Why don't you sit down? Why don't you get a chair? And that chair, you might want a pillow on it to make you higher. You know? Okay. Before more people come in, maybe Shirley, you and Mimi and I could try to give Pat, who doesn't know him, right? You don't. Do you know where St. John's is, Pat? St. John's Episcopal Church.
I think you told me it's in New Rochelle, close to where you live. I'm not sure.
Yes,
It's
it
across
is.
from our house,
I
actually.
Yeah.
was going to say very close.
Yeah, very close. You could throw
Never
a
been
stone
there.
and hit it. And Rusty was the priest there
Oh,
for
okay.
many years.
But he hasn't been the priest in the last five.
Lord.
Okay, he hasn't been the priest in the last 5 years. 5 years is Lady Jenny,
You
but
retired?
he retired and went to where'd he go? Where'd he live?
Delaware.
Delaware.
Delaware. Bethany Beach.
Yeah, he was at
Delaware.
St. John's 18 years.
And
Yeah, I
during
think-
that period of time, St. John's went through some changes and went through a lot of challenges. And we did quite, I think it was like 150th birthday or anniversary of the church.
Right.
Right.
And Rusty, my 2 cents or 10 cents or whatever, is that Rusty was a magnet for all kinds of people. And
'Cause-
everyone got along with Rusty.
That's because he was into so many things.
Yeah, he was. He was
He was an actor. He once owned a gifted consignment shop. He owned a consignment store in Hartsdale. He was an actor. He was a singer. He was a preacher,
And he
a
was-
mentor, or everything. You know,
and he was
about
one of the
everything.
most brilliant people you can meet, actually. And also, he had a non-traditional view of Christianity that he would share with us members of the church often. And it was really almost a weekly diet for us that we would hear the other gospels. We would hear about the gospel according to Mary or James or whatever.
Right.
And we would be challenged with our belief even in belief in Christ as the Son of God at times.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just an amazing person. I'll never forget.
That's okay.
We're gonna play a clip. When I was Rusty helped me transition my gender.
I know.
Wait.
We were talking about that today. How, because
UNP?
I was just going to say, we started at St. John's before you had transitioned. I mean, I think there were things leading up to it that we probably didn't know anything about it, but we certainly knew you in a different version of you.
Right.
Yep. Same here.
But you know what, Fran? Not different.
Not different.
Not
And in fact, less different now than back then. Because when I look back at some of the photos, I was, a flaming blonde, and I was talking like this, and I was trying every way I could to be some concoction of what I thought was feminine, which I'm finally settled into kind of my own. But Rusty, for several years, I lived here. And I knew that church was there, and I was pulled in by the signs that would have
went
these
to
great
Catholic for many
aphorisms and stuff.
Yeah, I've been talking about that. He had a sign one year. It said, "Not all the turkeys are on the table," and that brought in a bunch of people.
We got to
Yeah.
make the signs again. They're not.
I know they had.
They
these-
left them the same forever
They
now.
were
They're
so
not.
clever, and I always thought, "Gee, what a great group of people must be in there." But I was tied to Holy Family. I was very involved. I got very
Catholic
involved
Church.
with them, and so was my male id. Was tied to that and to Catholicism and stuff.
Yeah,
And
but
wait, just Kelly, I just want to, you know, I don't want to take too much time. I'm talking about this, but so when I walked in one day, I felt I was going to be late to get to that mass at Holy Family, and so I went to the 10:30 mass at St. John's, and I walk in, and I think I walked in a little late, and he's doing what he called a dialogue sermon, following the gospel. He would say, well, what do you think about that? You know, and he would say, well, what about this? And people would raise their hand, they're talking back and forth. And I all of a sudden, I raised my hand, you know, and I felt really so connected, you know, and plus he appealed to my intelligence as well as my heart and everything. So I started going to Holy Family as a man. I started going as a man to St. John's. And then there was a play that was coming up, and he said it would be okay for me to try out for the play as the female bartender, the mall. And because he said to me, I know, he mainly said to me, I know that there's something up, you know. And so I did, and then I started. He said, well, if you want, you could start attending services as a female. And then, so what I did is on Saturday I would go to Holy Family as a man, and Sunday I would go to St. John's as a female.
How could he say you couldn't? I mean, how?
He could. Well, he could have made it uncomfortable for me. But
Well, there are a lot of churches that won't accept that.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
He was
And
very
I think that's the beauty of St. John's also, because I was involved in the choir at my Catholic church, and I had CCD there, and we had some things that St. John doesn't have. We don't have a CCD. We don't have that. But then after I got to a certain age and that was over, the choir was only a certain age group, then there wasn't connection. And basically basically the reason I was going to my Catholic church is because my grandparents went, and they liked going there. But after my grandparents died, it was just going to church and leaving. It wasn't, I knew the people like at a certain level, but I didn't really know them. I knew parts of them, but I didn't really know about all the aspects like I do of the people at St. John's. I know all about their lives. And when you don't go to there's only, I mean, on the roster, there's quite a few people, but daily there's about 30 people there. So, I mean, you know them intimately. And, but anyone, even if we had 100 people, like sometimes when we have Christmas and stuff, you know everyone, and when you're not there, they miss you. Like at my other church, like if you didn't go, you know, they wouldn't miss you. You know, they miss you if you don't go, and they reach out to you if you don't go. Like, where have you been?
And that was a community that he helped foster, and quite frankly, it's never been the same. I mean,
Jenny does a good job.
Jenny does a good job,
But he did, because he built it. He built it from really nothing.
Yeah, he built
There
it.
were,
He had 3 people.
Yeah, the joke he used to tell was there were 3 people the first service, and then there were 2 the second. So he thought, you know, I must have done something wrong.
Pat, did you see a photo of him in the email I sent?
Yeah.
You did. Okay, you saw that. And Mimi, what would you like? Would you like to say? Because you were very close with Rusty, I know, and I can't imagine how it is for you to deal with his passing. Although I guess maybe you've been dealing with it in steps.
When did he pass?
April 30th.
April 30th. Yeah.
My father's birthday.
Natural causes?
Not
Yeah.
really.
Not really.
Well, he had Alzheimer's and diabetes and some other health issues.
And liver problems.
Yeah.
So that was natural causes then?
Well, illness. Illness, you know.
Not the corona. He didn't die of that, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess anything we die of is natural causes in a way, right?
67?
Well, no. I mean, if you get the coronavirus, it's not natural causes.
Well,
Right.
technically it is. I
Right.
mean, it's natural to the world, you know, to the planet. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it depends on how you define it.
So Rusty would do things like have a lobster picnic, you know, kind of thing, you know. He would
That generated a lot of people.
do theater and held concerts
Right.
as part of the church. He would get each person, for example, Mimi is very musical and a wonderful singer and everything. So there was always something happening with the church, and always a way to engage people. So I remember one time, early on, I think, when I was there, he handed out index cards. And I thought, well, what's this? Oh, this is, a donation, you know, write down your contribution. I'm thinking, you know, I'm letting my preconditioned way of thinking run, right? And then he said, everyone's wondering, well, what do we, and then little pencils, you know, what are we doing? What do we do? He said, I'd like you to write down what is one of your skills or passions or hobbies that you would like to bring to the church and to help the church out. It doesn't have to be raising money. It could be, you know, what would you like to do with your, so I wrote down, I love to videotape stuff. I videotape everything, you know. So I love to videotape. And then he said to me after we met the next week, I think he went through the cards and he said, well, what do you think you want to do? And I said, well, I could videotape events. I could videotape the services. And then I started that next week. I started I videotaped every service.
Every service and all the performances.
And all the performances, I have everything. I have it all. It's like unbelievable.
I know. We went on YouTube and looked to see how all of, you know, I only watched a few, was all I could take.
I sent For Good to Sally, his sister, and it was so hard to sing that with him that year. That was 2007. It was so hard to sing it with him because I love him so much, you know, and who knew that it would be like that, you know? And so when listening to it, we were all
what do you mean it was so hard to sing it with him?
Because I meant every word of it. It was very personal.
But not because you knew he was sick or anything.
No, it was it was 2007, but we pulled it up here in the house, and we had a house guest. This is a few weeks ago, and Patrick and she and I watched it, and she didn't know Rusty, and she was crying.
Oh, God, that song, and you know the lyrics. From Wicked. Pat, do you know this song?
Yeah. What song?
Yeah.
From Wicked the musical.
For Good, it's called.
It's from Wicked. It's from the musical Wicked.
Unless I've heard it on TV.
All right, I'm gonna play it so you hear some of it. Okay. All right, hold on a second. And the words are, I never forget hearing it then, and I guess I liked it. I loved it. I loved their performance. But the song, I wasn't like nuts about the song. But now I'm nuts about the song.
Right.
The lyrics.
You think of how it relates into your life.
And think about how, from Rusty's standpoint, and
it has a lot of meaning.
Very, very powerful song.
When I
play it, and then
he wants to say something.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
No, I was just going to say, when I started acting, doing film acting, my teacher wanted me to start to do background work so that I could see what a set was like, so that when I got a part, you know, I would be acclimated. And the first thing I played was a psychiatrist for an NBC pilot. And one of the girls that was there, I think she was my daughter or something, not my daughter, but I forgot what she was. She had the Wicked logo tattooed on her.
Oh, really?
Oh, gee.
And I said to her, you know, I recognized it immediately, and I figured it was just, you know, spray on. And she said, no, this is a permanent tattoo.
Yeah, it affected people big time.
It's an amazing, and on top of that, I had seen Wicked with Rusty and Anthony and Lisa and my daughter. And it was so funny because I don't know if you know the story of the book and the musical are very different. And we were watching the musical, and she sings, I'm Not That Girl, you know, and Elphaba sings this, and Rusty turns to me because I'd been always heartbroken in every relationship. And he said, that's your song. And it was true, but then she got to Defying Gravity, and I turned back to him and I said, oh no, that's my song.
All right.
So you all saw the play?
No,
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
I didn't see
I know
the play,
pieces
but,
of it. I know.
you know what? I may be able to share the screen here. Let's see if this works. I wanted to. Hold on. Let me just see if you all
There
can
you go.
see this.
Yep.
She sees me.
Where? What do you see?
We see the church.
You see the church.
I see. It looks like Oscar
Okay.
in the corner there.
See the church. Let me make it.
It's awesome.
Let me make
Wow,
it bigger.
he's
You see it bigger now?
It's very
It's the
big on
same.
mine. It's the full screen on mine.
How about now? You see it
She
good?
has a full screen.
All
I'm
right,
still
good.
on my phone, so.
All right.
In fact, looking right at the quilt is giving me shivers.
I see. I don't see the quilt on my
No,
side.
no, on the side, so you see it on yours.
Oh, on there.
On the
Okay,
little one, you
yeah, on
see
the
it.
little one.
But can she see?
Yeah, the quilt.
You don't have it
Oh
hanging on mine.
God, there was so
It's not
many.
hanging.
Pat, one day after one day after one, every week was different and interesting and engaging and something. And we had people of all kinds, of all races, of all, sexual orientations and ages. It was just
Well, not ages, not so much. There's,
no,
there's no one my age there but me.
All right, well,
Not
okay.
age.
Here's the song. Pat, see if you could follow with the words until other people come in. We'll do this.
Listen together, Spirit, I've heard you.
Oh no, it's the wrong one.
Oh,
Wrong
Spirit,
song.
I heard you calling. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, that one too.
That's a good
that was
song
his
too.
like anthem too.
But where is the? Yeah, this must be it. This is it.
Just play it on the thing.
For good, yeah, right. Okay. Takes 30 seconds. You can hear me also?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take a minute to set up here, but once we're set up, now you can see each other if you want to see each other. And you can put it on the right-hand side.
Fran, you know what I just found is the CD that you made of all of us talking.
Oh, we're looking for that. Rob, great, because I'd like to maybe somehow get that from you or copy it.
Yeah, I
Bob
got it.
Sykes was asking me about that yesterday. I've been looking and looking. I can't find it.
Yeah, well, I have it right here.
Great, great. You notice this girl here?
Yeah.
This is a service. Is that what you're looking for? This isn't that recital.
Yeah,
Oh.
You hear it?
Oh, this is the other one.
This is his last service.
Ah, okay.
His last service. Yeah, you're right, Mimi. It's a different one.
That people come into our lives for a reason. It is something we must learn if we are led. See those who help us most to grow if we let them. And we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true. But I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. And on days as it passes that song, I can see the beats of older how to play through the world. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Because I knew.
Because I knew you. I have been changed for good. Now Rusty sings. Here.
It will be that we meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part so much of this day. I've learned you'll be with me. Like a handprint on my heart. And now we'll give away our soul. said, I know you have been mine by being my friend. Simple promise for me while getting on the sun. I see drop by a sky, I'll just stand and say if I would change for the better, because I knew you.
Because I knew you, I have been changed for the
And just to clear the air, I must get this one thing about you.
But then I guess we always play to share, and nothing seems to matter anymore. Romance is a song, on a street that needs a boulder, that way. You can say I've been changed for the better. I have been changed for the better. Because I knew you.
Because I knew you.
Because I knew you. I have been changed.
That song is just too emotional. Just too emotional.
That was a little sample, Pat.
Yeah, it seemed like people coming together there. I couldn't understand the lyrics.
Right. In fact, I'm going to, if you permit me, I'm going to read a few paragraphs, but Mimi did a performance of that with Rusty, the two of them. That was very, you remember that, Mimi? No?
Of course she does. You're still on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, I don't hear you. Oh, you're on
Sorry,
mute.
I put it on mute thinking that would make the sound of the piece better.
Okay.
Yes, of course I remember that.
I know.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about because
Yeah.
I wasn't there for his last service.
Right. So I got to find that. It
Okay.
probably won't be that hard
Mimi,
to find.
Mimi?
Yes,
Were you
yes.
Were you at St. Andrews? Is that when you met Rusty?
I met Rusty, I think it was 1991, and Priscilla, you know Priscilla?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she asked me to sing the Mozart Alleluia for Easter Vigil and Easter Sunday.
Oh.
And I had seen Rusty once. I'd only seen him. I had never met him. He did, in the middle of a service, he did Priscilla's wedding to Nick.
Oh.
And I had gone for that. My ex-husband then was accompanying because Priscilla was also singing.
Yeah.
And so I went with Pam. Remember Pam?
Do you
Pam
know
Scanlon?
if people at St. Andrews know?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
I know that.
I let Priscilla know.
Yeah, and I know Margaret knows because it's on her Facebook
Right.
page.
And I let Pam and Frank know. They weren't St. Andrews specifically.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, in the middle of the service, Easter Vigil, and I was raised atheist, Rusty said, or before the service, he said something about baptizing a baby. And I don't know what possessed me, but I said, will you baptize me? And he said,
Wow.
yes. Didn't even know me. Yeah. So my baptism was in the middle of the service that I was singing. And
Really?
then,
Wow.
yeah, almost a year later, my son, who was by then 4.5, said, I want to be baptized too, Mom. So we talked to Rusty, and my ex-husband was also an atheist. And so Rusty said, yeah, pick a godparent. So pick godparents. So he picked Rusty as his godfather.
Yeah.
And so we go and he gets baptized again, Easter Vigil. And we're driving home. And I said to him, little Alexander, do you want to tell Daddy you were baptized, or do you want me to tell him? And he says, I'll handle it, Mom, in his little seat. And we get home.
4.5 years old.
4.5. We get home and his dad's playing the piano and he walks up to me, long face. Bad news, Dad. I was baptized.
Oh my goodness.
What it's been so long since I've been to a Catholic church.
It's Episcopal. It's Episcopal.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh.
I know that babies get baptized, but I've forgotten what the purpose of baptism is.
To renounce Satan, basically.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but I have to say, I am not specifically Christian. I am an interfaith minister now. I wasn't then. Rusty nurtured me into finding myself. And part of that was interfaith seminary. So I call myself a generic Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, Jewish witch. And you could throw anything else in there that you want.
Wow.
And as my partner likes to say, she even ministers to atheists, as if atheists don't have spiritual needs, right?
Rusty used to say at the altar, everyone is welcome to this altar. Whatever you believe, even if you don't believe, you know?
Right.
Well, Jenny says that too.
And he would say that, he would add, because nobody should remember a time that they weren't welcomed at God's table.
Right.
And I think that's the reason I could go there, and I could not attend a church where everybody is not welcome. So I don't think I'm Catholic at all.
Right.
I mean, you know, and my experience when I was much younger, I was singing in an a cappella choir in Maine when I was in college. And I remember going to a church, somebody's church, during one of our tours, and people were taking communion. So I turned to somebody in the choir and I said, what are they doing? I had no idea. And he said, they're taking communion. You can't have any because you're not baptized. And so, you know, when Rusty said everybody's welcome, that just did it for me.
Yeah, he was. And I want to introduce you to who is on this Zoom call here. We're talking about Rusty Hesse, who was the priest who just passed away on April 30th. And he, we would talk, and we played actually a song called For Good. I've been changed for the better. I've been changed for good, from the musical Wicked, which was one of Rusty's favorite songs. And he sang it with the choir, and we just did that. And that video is up on Facebook if you wanted to see it, along with the lyrics. The lyrics are very special. And so I want to introduce you to in the upper right, in like a sweatshirt, I guess, right? Mimi with glasses. She's waving.
Hi.
Right?
Hi, Mimi. How are you?
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
In the other side is Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
Hi.
And then Pat DiBuono, you've seen Pat.
Hiya, Pat.
before.
How are you doing?
And Ann Bella is an artist and a writer that I know through some other friends. And I've been doing these Zoom shows, like I think maybe the 7th or 8th. And then Ann has been on several of them.
This is like a lot longer.
And has read, usually they're up and we perform or do something like that. Variety kind of thing. But what's more important than sharing memories of somebody who has passed away, right? So.
Right. And I just want to apologize. I'm in Colorado, so I'm 2 hours earlier. I'm still at work, even though I'm working from home. So that's what I'm doing. I don't mean to be rude, or I'm listening.
Oh, okay. That's okay, Mimi. I figured it was something that had a really good reason, whatever.
Well, I had to get this done. So now I'm done.
Oh, all right. Okay, good. Very good. Well, now maybe you could take out a musical instrument or something.
I thought it was a little ironic that the same time Rusty died, Peter died. Peter lived with him, and Peter died like just 2 weeks before.
Right.
Rusty is the one who told me that.
Yeah.
He died 2 weeks. Oh, he told you that?
Rusty told me that in our last conversation.
I was like 2 weeks before, and they lived together. And oh my.
Rusty, I mean, we all, I guess, I use labels or use some kind of adjectives to describe people. I don't know how else to maybe get started with it. But Rusty was 64, I think, when he passed away. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and very witty, and could think very, critical thinking he's really sharp. And I always felt, to be kind of engaged and present when I was in his company. It wasn't like you could just I don't know.
He couldn't. He engaged you. He
he's very
pulled you in.
right? And also he's very talented. He was theatrical. He was a singer, songwriter. He wrote many of the songs that we used to do in service.
Auctioneer.
Say it again.
Auctioneer.
I remember this time. I had the gift and consignment shop, and we needed other ways to generate money and stuff. So we had all these events, and we had an auction. And I could have probably done it, but I asked, not like Rusty. So we asked Rusty, could you be the auctioneer in my store? And he came and did the whole auction at my store, so.
He was great. He was fantastic. And he knew everything about everything, like, oh, you need that? Oh, I know somebody who, I
can do it myself or something, or I'll help.
Totally connected. I have a very funny Rusty story, though.
Yes.
The only time he ever did marijuana,
okay,
was at a party, and it was the night before. Shirley, if I have this wrong, correct me. I'm sure you've heard it. It was the night before he had to defend his thesis, and somebody asked him, "Would you like your chili with or without?" And he assumed they meant meat, so he said, "With, please," and he had a few bowls of it. And he didn't know it had hit him, and he had to go defend his thesis the next day. And he said that one of the comments was, "Brilliant. I have no idea what he was talking about."
We hadn't moved up north in that era, when he was doing his thesis and everything. We were still in Philadelphia. So some of that, things that went on during then.
Did you get to see a photo of Rusty in the email that I sent?
Yes, I did. He looks like such a kind-hearted, genuine soul. He really did. Sometimes I feel like this virus has sucked so many amazing people from this world because they need them in a higher capacity.
He wasn't a victim. No, he wasn't a victim.
He had other health issues.
Thank God. That would have been even harder, maybe for Anthony.
Yeah.
He leaves behind his husband, Anthony, and his daughter, Lisa. He's married. What was that? Was that
something fell?
Sounded like
I kicked
a bunch of cups or something.
Yeah, I kicked over.
From a magic act.
I'm so sorry. I kicked
No, that's right.
I'm a hot mess. It's been crazy with work and stuff, but yeah, I kicked over a cup.
And Shirley, why don't you share something about Rusty?
Oh boy.
That we might not know.
There's so much. Well, I'll share this one because our daughter Patricia, who is he married her and her husband. I mean, he's been the key person in all of the events. In fact, when he married Patricia, in his homily, he talked about life as a series of events with the Longshores. But Patricia,
that's their last name, Longshore,
who's now
brilliant piece.
She's approaching 50. But when we were first in New York, or not first, when we first met Rusty, and we lived on 110th Street, around the corner from the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. And Rusty was a seminarian. He was 23, 24 years old. And he was at St. Michael's Church, which was about 10 blocks away. And he was determined at that point to develop a youth group at St. Michael's. And that was something that, he really took on as his passion for, for the church population, because there were young people and they did need to have, an activity. So he would do something called Night Watch at the cathedral, where they would sleep there overnight, the young people and in the group, and he would do all kinds of activities with them in this monster church. And
I remember.
you know, they'd do games, they'd have dinner, they'd sleep in sleeping bags, they'd have breakfast the next morning. So every Saturday when Patricia was about 11 years old and our son James was 2 or 3 years old, he would come to our apartment on 110th Street at 9 o'clock in the morning after he had bid all the young people goodbye. He was exhausted, hadn't slept in who knows how many hours, because you don't go to sleep and leave teenagers to their own devices,
Right.
which he knew, not being that far away from teenager himself.
Right.
And he would ring our doorbell and he would come in with the leftover donuts, sentence can make me cry, the donuts and the bagels from Night Watch. And he would plop himself down in our rocking chair and just sit and we'd have the coffee ready and he'd hold James on his lap. And Patricia said, I will never forget that forever, because it was so wonderful every Saturday morning. And then finally he would just drag himself down to his apartment at St. Michael's. And that was the kind of thing he did. You know, I mean, he did that for us, but he did things like that for everybody.
He was very much a part of your life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like a long time person in your life.
You know, I mean, wherever we've gone, he's basically stayed in New York, but, you know, when we were in Philadelphia, when we lived in New Jersey, we just, you know, tried to, well, James, the reason I asked you, Mimi, about St. Andrews was, do you remember The King and I? Were you there?
No, I didn't know him yet.
When he did The King and I.
But he's often told me that story. About the pants.
Oh yeah, oh, there's so many stories from The King and I. And James was about 9 or 10, and he was interested in acting, and Rusty had sort of taken him under his wing. And at St. Michael's, as early as St. Michael's, I think James was around 9 years old, and he and another woman in the church who was an actress gave him the role of Mamilius in A Winter's Tale. Was the first thing that he did as a young actor. And then when Rusty was doing The King and I, he cast James in the role of the son. And we drove between Manasquan, New Jersey and Hartsdale over and over again for rehearsals. But also he had James stay with him. And that's something, you know, if it was a weekend and he wasn't in school, he would just stay there with Rusty. And it was, you know, James will never forget it. That was the first thing he brought up when I told him. And so everybody, and then he married, I mean, it's the most, I don't know if you can see this, but this is only 4 years ago. He died the day of before what would have been their 4th anniversary. But this is our daughter, Catherine.
Oh, wow.
And her wife, Monica.
Well, we're seeing a reflection.
Can you pull it back a little?
Yeah,
yeah.
Pull it back, yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
A little better.
Can you see it, or should I take it out?
I think you have to take it out.
You might, even if you just angle it a little, it might be okay.
You go down.
That's it right there. And you know what? Maybe I'll if we click it on speaker view, I don't know. Can each of us?
Go down.
I don't know whether.
Okay.
Now
I have to introduce Cleo because she wants to be part of the call too.
Oh, okay. All right. Great.
Can you see it?
Hi, Cleo.
Yes.
Can you see Rusty? That's the important thing.
Yeah, and Rusty.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Shirley. Who died 4 years ago?
No, he died the night before. When he died on April 30th, Catherine and Monica's 4th wedding anniversary was May 1st.
So he died the night before
their 4th anniversary. And I think it might have been one of the last weddings he did before Lisa, and he was fine. He was fine. He was not ill. He hadn't had, he may have had early indications of the Alzheimer's, but it certainly didn't show. And it was pouring rain. The wedding was on the beach, and he was it didn't faze him. that he showed, that he showed. But, you know, we all gathered out there on the beach. It didn't start raining until he had started the service.
Of course.
So we found this little kind of shelter thing, and he, you know, took them in there, and the rest of us stood out in the rain. But he even found, when he heard the fork, see, he was living in Bethany Beach, and the wedding was in Cape May. So there's a ferry across to Cape May from Delaware, and he and Anthony came. They, you know, he had heard the forecast of rain, and so he found a poem that he read to everybody at the end, saying the focus of the poem was that if it rains on your wedding day, you'll have good luck.
Oh, yeah.
And
That is true.
That is.
you know, he had found it when he knew, I don't know, it was just the little generous, you know, heartfelt things that he did for everybody.
Yeah, he was like incredible.
Really for everybody. And
He wrote me a poem when I left and moved out here,
yeah,
which I have, and it's framed, and yeah, it's just so
Yeah.
sweet.
yeah.
Shirley, how long did you live in Manasquan?
For 4 years.
Because my stepmother lived there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a good place for us, really, because it was too small town for us. I mean, we
Yeah, I
love
get
the
that.
beach, but we're New York.
Yeah.
For Ann and Pat, I'd like to mention that Rusty was involved in lots of different things. He also wrote a couple of books, but
Couple of books.
Cooking with the Bible, you know,
Aw.
like, and so then he would
Cooking
have
with the movies.
Cooking with the movies,
yeah.
and then the Cooking with the Bible. Well, also with the movies, he would have big dinners at his house, and then we would go there and then have
Discussion.
locusts, you know, from the Bible, you know,
Whatever it was
you know,
from the
and
Bible.
all these different things. He was always into
I remember
something.
going to New Year's, almost a lot of New Year's parties at his house.
Yeah,
There was
Every
a lot of
year.
parties.
Every
every
year.
year. And I want to share, what I like to do is, there's a slideshow. When Rusty retired on
Should I tell it?
the end of,
Should I tell it?
one second, at the end of June 2013, he had this celebration retirement dinner. Over 100 people were at this club, beach club in Rochelle called Davenport Club. It was a big thing. I'm going to play actually a little clip from that. And for that,
Should I say it?
yeah, for that, Kelly.
Rusty knows that I'm very, I'm creative with a lot of things, and he knows I know how to do PowerPoints and computer stuff. So he asked me, could you make a slideshow? But then I made it a little more than just a typical slideshow. I added some sayings in there and some other things to make it a little more, to make it a gift for him, not just a slideshow, a gift. And some photos that I also took, I incorporated. I have his wedding in there. I have photos of him from very young that he gave me to put in there of his acting. So I have all stages of his life.
So we're going to
mostly.
show that. We're going to show that now if it works. And at his dinner, when I looked at the clip the other night, he was so nice and gracious and thanked
me
Kelly and stuff, as he did, thanking all of the people who were there. It was like an amazing. Let's see if this will come up. Let me know if it starts. We took a video of the slideshow to see if this is does that, you see that?
No.
You don't
No.
see that.
Hey, you never share it yet.
Okay.
Share it. Now
You
see
know,
it.
I
Oh,
did his
there we go.
wedding.
What?
You know, I did his wedding to
At
Anthony.
St. Thomas?
No, on their porch, because the bishop wouldn't let them get married.
Oh, okay.
And it was just
I guess I didn't
the-
go
Before
there.
before their wedding, right?
Oh.
Before their wedding we were at.
for the actual marriage ceremony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think, I can't remember who was there. I think my son and me and Lisa,
Okay.
and there might have been one other person, but I don't remember.
Okay, so what was the at St. Thomas? What was it that we did there?
That was a union ceremony,
Union
because
thing,
the
right.
bishop wouldn't let them
By
get
the way, I
married
have a
in the
video
church.
of that. I have a video of that whole ceremony too. I think I have the only video of that.
The bishop didn't get it.
No, and then he
Yeah.
retired after that.
Yeah.
Too bad. The bishop, that is.
Yeah.
Play this slide.
So here's Rusty Hesse. just put some of my own music behind it.
I remember he used to say that we should tell him messages that we see on other churches in case he can use
Yeah, right. Remember that? Remember that event?
Is that the one?
Renaissance.
That's my daughter.
Wow.
Your daughter was there?
That's the quilt that Shirley was
There you are.
There's Mimi.
There she is.
Oh,
And-
wow.
I wonder where some of these people are that I didn't see in these photos. Who I know, what I don't see.
That's Rusty and his husband Anthony. That's another shot of them a little later.
The next one shows the book, the Bible, the book.
Yeah, this shows the
What kind of shirt?
there's the
Their book.
Cooking with the Movies book.
That's in the car.
We used
He
to
used to
have
do bake auctions at Christmas.
Israeli auctions.
I don't know who some of these people are, but it's just a.
That's
There's Tammy. She'll be on
Look
it
at
on
her, Rick.
Saturday, I think.
oh wow, look
There's
at Corinne.
Krista
These
Georgia
are all
with
old
the
pictures he
mustache.
had given me.
These are great.
A classic photo.
Oscar and Juanita.
Look at Joanne.
Corinne
there's
and Nina.
Oscar, did you see Oscar and
Oscar.
Joanne?
Look at you.
There's Irene. Irene's
Oh,
about
yeah.
90 something now.
No, 1995.
95.
Wow, that's Rusty's
Member, the
partner.
longest member.
Jeanette. That was Ray's first wife.
Right?
Mm.
Many of these people are gone.
That's my daughter, Patricia.
Oh, is that
Oh.
your
That's your
daughter?
daughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
And her,
Oh, that's right, right.
and who was the baby? The grandson?
That's John and Michael. Irene. This was for an event that we dressed up.
The Renaissance
The
event.
Renaissance event. That's
St.
Rusty
John.
now as a younger person. As a younger man. Good shot of him right
Wow.
Oh, my skinny. Playing the part.
Never knew him with facial hair.
Now this is the wedding.
Yeah.
A lot of these I think I took. Pretty sure.
there. There's Rob's sights right there. There's Shirley and Pete.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Sally and Lisa.
It's Kumar. I
I wonder where he happened to him.
wonder how.
John Lott.
Yeah.
Matthew.
That's Rob Seitz.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
there.
right, that's it. Sally.
There'll be several people on the whatever the gathering on Saturday night. There'll probably be a number of people.
There's you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
look so
big,
too.
yeah.
I look different. I think I could take these.
Oh.
That Joan Jurgen?
It's Joan Jurgen, yes. I was trying to pull it out of nowhere.
What's her name?
Kyle.
What's her name?
Oh, Michelle and Donnie.
Oh, right.
When I was a blonde.
Look at
Oh,
you
here's like a.
sing.
There's George.
You gotta see
Yeah,
this
that's
photo.
right.
You gotta see this photo.
Ray and
This
Irene,
was another
What's her name? What's her
event
name?
that we had.
No,
the Williams, Corinne, Kyle.
oh, Dorothy and Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where'd you
Dorothy
get the
and Lou
car?
I haven't seen in a long time.
Look!
There you
There
go.
you are.
Shirley,
Oh,
you see
cool.
that?
Picture, that was pretty. So her kids.
Maryland.
Neighbor.
Rebecca.
Yeah, Rebecca. Wonder how they are.
Chris Falk.
Chris.
It's near the end now. This is at the end. That's his daughter Lisa and Pat.
When did you put this together, Kelly?
When he was retiring, in 2013, you said? He retired, yeah.
And it was at the retirement dinner.
He was playing the whole night.
She set up the projector and at a table and was playing the whole night.
I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear the date when you said it.
June 20th, 2013.
Wow. Okay.
20th, right? 20?
20th, yeah, 20.
Yeah, it was my daughter's birthday, so I remembered that.
So what did he do during his retirement?
He still acted. I think he subbed at some churches. Subbed, he was acting, he was writing, but I don't know how heck of a lot. Too bad I only kept in touch with him a little bit. I remember one night.
They did though. Let them.
But I remember one night you called him for something, right? And just a phone call. You called him like, I think it's only 2 years ago you called him. But then he called us back with a FaceTime call, and I didn't expect a FaceTime call from him. And then we ended up sitting for like an hour. We were in the car in the parking lot. We ended up sitting for an hour talking to him on FaceTime. And I did not expect a FaceTime call. And I didn't even know Dad reached out to him, and then he got a FaceTime call, and it was nice, you know. See his face.
Yeah. I think he did some preaching. A number of the
Yeah.
churches down there needed, you know, when the regular priest or rector is away, you know, they would call on Rusty to do the sermon and handle the service.
He got involved in an acting group there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called
I'd
the-
That
like
was,
to-
Kelly, that was beautiful.
Yes.
I tried to add some extra stuff in it to make it more, fill it out more.
It was
I
beautiful.
enjoy making popcorn. I enjoy these things, so.
Yeah.
You did a
I'd love
beautiful
a
job,
copy of that
Kelly.
if you guys want to share it.
Of course.
That was nice.
What's a copy?
It would
Beautiful
be
job.
nice for,
That's on
Sally.
that's on the internet. That
Okay.
put that on
Mhm.
Facebook and I think also on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'd like to
Mhm.
share. Maybe spend another 5 or 10 minutes. I'd like to share a poem, not a poem. I'd like to share a poem too, but I'm trying to put this on gallery mode here so we can see everybody. Big. Where is it? I don't know. I don't know why it's not showing me.
If you have to unshare your screen first.
I think so. I'll be right back.
Stop share, right? That's okay. I'm gonna wait for Ann to come back because Ann is a poet, and so one thing that before she comes back, one thing that Rusty did when he retired, I think he did this at the time he retired. he wrote everyone a letter, I think, or most people. So I got this letter, and it threw me for a loop, actually. He was very warm and expressed. It was a very intimate letter. It was the best letter I think I ever got from anyone. And I didn't know that I had touched him, you know? So I kept it, that letter, in an envelope right next to my bed in a little aluminum can. And it was always there. I don't know. I guess I imagine that if I was to die and somebody came into my bedroom and I died in my sleep, they would somehow find this letter and then they would add it to what was said about me at the funeral or whatever. I don't know. But I don't know what caused me to do it. But I put it there. And then one day I woke up and I was startled, like almost as if it was an earthquake. And that letter fell out of the can onto the floor. I couldn't find it at first. That whole can just fell onto the floor. I didn't hit it. I didn't hit it with my foot or anything. And that was the day that Rusty told me he had Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And it was connected with that. Here's what I wrote to Rusty when he retired. So I kept this. And this is my saying this to Rusty now that he's retired in heaven, in this phase, new phase. And I'd like to think of it in a positive way, Dear Rusty, congratulations on your new phase. Thank you very much. You have helped me, my daughter Kelly, and my family in ways that are innumerable and immeasurable. My heart is filled with joy for you embarking on your next phase. You have equipped the people of our congregation with spirit, heart, intelligence, more than most, if not all, other people in our lives. What an enormous positive impact you have had on all of us, and will continue to have. I am, of course, sorry to see you leave, and sorry for St. John's, but with the foundation you've helped us so well to build, I trust we'll do fine. I am gladdened when I think of all the people in your future who will be the recipients of your generous love and ideas. And I smile believing how their lives and your life will be forever changed for the better. Because of you, my relationship with Christ, with people, and with myself have been profoundly deepened. And I meant this following sentence. You, like no one else I have ever met in my entire life, embody the message and meaning of Christ. Love, Fran, Sisco. I told that to Jenny the other day. She said, he had a big effect on you. I said, yeah, I thought it then, I still think it. If I had to pick one person, narrow it down to one person, it might be my mother. But close to my mother, it was Rusty.
Not your father? Whoa.
It was Rusty. He just had unbelievable integrity. No, you.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
But anyway, he was, and
He was a lot of
Pat
things.
and Ann, maybe you can see a little bit of him from some of the videos that you might watch, or some of
There's a
the
lot of things.
things that might be said. If you could come on Saturday night, you'll hear a lot more things about him from additional people and their perspectives. So I want to open it up to Mimi and Shirley again, if you want to, and Kelly, if you want to share some. And actually, before that, I want to open it up to Pat and Ann. If you have any thoughts about helping Mimi and Shirley and Kelly and myself grieve or celebrate, or whatever the word would be, if you have any thoughts to share with us, just based on this little bit that you gathered about Rusty. And you're, let me unmute you.
Sorry.
All right, there you go.
He sure seemed like a really beautiful soul and a gift to the world. Someone that was very generous at heart, from what I can see. And you all seem very blessed that you had someone in your life like that. And I'm someone who believes they're never far from us, even after they've slipped into the next room, as they say. Talk to him. He'll be there for you.
I like the way you put that.
My grandmother is gone on the 29th. She was gone, since 94, so a long time. And, I talk to her and I get messages that she hears me. I know it. I get little validations here and there, only things that were between her and I, and I'll see them and I'll say, oh, you heard me, Grandma. So, talk to him and just know that you have somebody advocating for you on the other side. And times are really hard now. And, you have someone there that you can go to and, pray to and talk to. And I think that they'll do your bidding, they'll listen and maybe put a good word in. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
I actually have thought about that, Anne, is that, if this had happened, I don't know, 10 years ago, however long it would need to be, what Rusty would be saying to us all on Sunday mornings now. Because I would have been looking to him for some kind of feeling of reassurance, comfort, new thoughts on what's going on. I mean, it's really such an overwhelming thing that this is happening.
If you listen, you might hear what he would say to you.
I appreciate hearing you say that.
I have my best friend is a medium, and I'm just going to say that I believe with all my heart, after speaking to her, that they're literally right here and praying for us at all times and listening, and our angels. So, doesn't make it their loss easier, but just knowing that they're always in your heart, they're always in your mind, and now, they're keeping watch, and they hear you. So talk to him, pray to him.
And I have something, and I'd like to hear from Pat and Mimi too, but I have something that's so on that mark.
I think she's heard it.
You may have heard it, but you even mentioned the word slipped away into the next room. Mm-hmm. And this connects with Rusty through Joanne Bartoli. When my mother died, I was preparing for her funeral the next day, and I knew I wanted to say a reading that I thought had the words in it, slipped into the next room, that I remembered from another funeral. And I couldn't place it. And I was beside myself. It was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to find it. I don't know where it is. Joanne said, well, did you check Google? It's about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I says, no, that's right. That makes sense. So I type in slipped, and sure enough, it brought up the poem. Mm-hmm. And then I read this poem at my mother's funeral. And I think it fits for Rusty. And then I read it at 6 or 7 funerals after that. and it's like sort of my go-to poem. It's written from the standpoint of the person who died. So this is
Yes.
Rusty telling us. And consistent with what you were saying, they're still present. You know,
That poem, I know that that poem is important to you and to many loved ones that you read it when they passed. And that poem has also been very important to me and my loved ones when they have passed. I find great comfort in those words. So I believe them wholeheartedly. You know, I do.
So with that setup, it's called Death is Nothing at All by Henry Scott Holland. And it was delivered in 1910 at a sermon in England. And it's written from the perspective of the person who died. So this is Rusty telling us. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I am I and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me. Pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effort, without the ghost of a shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute unbroken continuity. What is death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind? Because I am out of sight? I am waiting for you for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is past, nothing is lost. One brief moment and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again. I hope that provides a little comfort, that poem.
It's very
Beautiful.
powerful.
Yeah.
Not a powerful poem.
Yeah.
And Pat and Mimi, you want to close it out, or Kelly? You have something to say, to leave us with?
Well, you know, I would, coming from my perspective with meditation, I think that grieving is very good. It's a form of releasing and letting go. But I wouldn't go beyond. There's no reason to punish ourselves over the loss of someone. In other words, you know, I have friends that every time there's an anniversary of a wife passing or something, they make themselves miserable, you know, over a situation, and that's an ego, you know, and you know, but grieving is very good. And the only thing two things come to mind is when we would do the meditation, we would get quiet at the end when we would have these weekend sessions, and you would communicate with people past, you know, in these situations by getting quiet and letting thoughts and inspirations from them come. So maybe you can. And the last thing I would say, I don't know if this would make sense, but what we are, according to these people, you know, doesn't change. So in other words, we never change. Whatever changes is in us. We're eternal. So this gentleman, you know, he didn't really pass. You know what I'm saying? In other words, he is there. Well, what he is has not changed. If I die, this is just a part of what I am. This physical being. So I probably did a poor job of explaining that, but the idea is to change yourself into a changeless state, a state where you're all eternal. You recognize your eternal beingness. So the idea of people passing is not reality according to them. But so I just think that, you know, he's a he's still going to be with us. If that makes any sense.
No, it does. It does.
No, it
Yeah,
does.
it does.
It does.
Especially
Thank
given
you.
him. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pat.
I just want to say, I firmly believe we are souls having a human experience.
Right, exactly.
So,
That's the
us
best
at,
way to say it.
us at our core, that's what we are, either in the flesh or just in spirit form.
Théa Desjardins.
I don't know if anyone here has ever let go of their mind. I mean, really just shut their mind down.
Yeah.
I've done it several times. I did it once for 15 minutes. And during that time,
I used to do it every time in 4th grade in math class.
Get your mind off.
and when I did it, I'm not going to go into the story of how I did it, but it came out of a very frustrating situation. And when I did it, I couldn't believe that I actually did it. You hear Led Zeppelin, the Stairway to Heaven, when all is one and one are all, and every time you read anything about meditation and spirituality, that's all they talk about. But, even though I've read about it, I never thought that it would actually ever happen. And when it happened, and I just let go, and I realized what they say, there isn't two of anything. Two does not exist. We're all one, and it's not just people. It's male and female. It's humans and animals. There's living and non-living. There's just one entity. And in the field of quantum physics, they call it oh God, I forgot what they call it now. It's
Unified field?
The unified field. Exactly.
Yeah, singularity.
So I've been there, and the other thing that's so amazing about it is it's so expansive. It's like the idea of two countries fighting is like two children playing in a sandbox, and you just, so you are, the entire universe resides in us.
Yeah.
We are the entire universe, and that is a changeless state that never changes. So everything else is an illusion. So that's basically, the idea of people dying and coming and going. It's all, we have to, as a human race, we have to learn to quiet our minds and live in the present moment and get rid of all of the BS that we deal with.
Pat, I've had that experience more than once, and it was there's no words. I mean, it's not something that I could tell you what it felt like, but having the experience is a very different thing from expressing what it is, right? And many people, anyone can have that experience. And it can be spontaneous, it can be brought on by a teacher, it can be something that you work towards in your life, and then there it is. It's a moment of true enlightenment. And
the skill that if you get there, and I haven't gotten there, is to be that way all the time. And
right.
When you live in that state, it's just incredible. And as I say, when I did it, the first thing that happened was that I can't believe I did it. And as soon as I said that was the end of it. It was like the scene from Ghostbusters where that ghouly dog-like thing comes in and pulls the guy out of the room. And then I just let go, and I got back there, and I stayed there for about 15 minutes. And I said, well, maybe I just wanted to keep it going. And then a little thought came into, there was no thinking. A little thought came in, and then I had to go to the restroom, and then I got up out of the bed. But and I've done it several other times for shorter periods, but this was really a very long period. And I was just listening to the meditation, because sometimes when I meditate, I listen to them narrate, and he was just saying, when you get to that state, you want to go back, and eventually you go back for longer periods of time, more often, until eventually you stay there. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but, we're killing ourselves in this world, fighting over nonsensical things. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I think
Pat, there's nowhere to get. You
Exactly.
are there.
There's nowhere to get.
You are there already.
You are there. That's exactly the idea of it. You're trying to get to yourself where you already are.
Right.
Right. I think
We are all already enlightened. We just forgot.
Right.
And I think this period of time is a wonderful wake up. I mean, it's not wonderful that people are sick and dying, but it is a wonderful opportunity for us to realign to what may be really important to us, you know, and to be more present in what is truly important.
And to the planet.
I just like to say for myself that I had a friend. I've lost 3 friends, 2 to coronavirus, 1 to natural causes in the last month. And I lost another friend is sick. I don't know if has the coronavirus or not. He was going into the hospital for testing. He was very bad. I called him actually with a computer question because he's a computer tech, and he was coughing and he sounded really bad. The doctor had him going into the hospital. And, you know, I went outside today for the first time in 5 weeks.
Wow.
So, actually, the last time I was in public talking to somebody I knew was February 24th.
Whoa.
I went to karaoke on a Monday night, which I normally don't do because a friend dragged me to this damn place. And I'm outside because she brought me minestrone soup and some vegetables. She has a connection in her boyfriend is a supermarket manager, but hasn't come through for me with anything good. But I'm standing outside talking to her, and I just realized how strange that is. I haven't been out in public. You know, I've been to go to the supermarket and get food, and I might say something quickly to somebody, but it was just totally.
Yeah, it was. I went to Jones Beach with Kelly last weekend.
Surprisingly, there was a lot of people there.
It was a
and
experience.
one of the fields was filled. I mean, I knew people were probably going to be there, but I didn't think they were going to be filled one of the fields.
We were distancing and masks and all of that.
And everyone else
but
was,
it was
but still.
completely the big sky feeling. It was a very big difference.
Yeah.
All right, Mimi, do you want to close with something? And then maybe we should say an Our Father for the people that are sick, including Pat's friends, and also for Rusty. Maybe we can close with a joint, a mutual prayer. But do you want to add something, Mimi?
Yes, when Rusty called me about 2 years ago to tell me he had Alzheimer's, I was so excited to hear from him. And he said, "I'm calling to say goodbye." And I said, "No, I am never saying goodbye to you."
Whoa.
And I never will.
He was going to say goodbye then?
He actually says in the video, actually, I think it would be worthwhile bringing this up. Bringing this up.
Because he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, but he had you know how much he had. He had 2 more years. He could have had more. You didn't know.
Right.
His mind went, but he physically was still,
friends never say goodbye.
He's still here now. I mean,
his mind did not go.
No, so then what? So then why was he saying goodbye then?
They say, "See you soon."
I'm surprised.
I'll just bring up this one little part of Rusty. At the end of his speech,
so
I'm going to share this screen, and it just may take me a second to bring this in.
But I thought he wasn't one. He didn't say
Here we
goodbye,
go.
St. John.
Let's see if I can. Can
see
you
it?
see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. So this is Rusty on June 20th, 2013, with 100 people or more in the room, giving a speech. Actually, let me play the last 2 minutes of it.
Grow with you and grow a church. It's a really, really interesting job to grow a church. And you have made it wonderfully pleasant. People who are members of the parish and all the people who came and touched us in so many ways. Thank you. And thank you so much for tonight. I want to thank you especially for your tribute to Anthony and to Lisa, because without them, it would have been very difficult. And so thank you, Anthony. I really want to say to you in front of everybody how much I appreciate all that you did to support me on all these years. And finally, when it comes to goodbyes, I think that the most
Here it is, Mimi.
appropriate thing to say is not goodbye, but adieu, which means, well, literally means to God, but it means I'll see you later, or tout à l'heure, the next time. Adios. It doesn't mean goodbye forever. It just means until we see each other the next time. And that's what I really feel. Everybody's been asking for our address. We've changed our phone number. We're not giving to anyone. But
You definitely change your address now.
On Facebook, I'm sure. That's where we find a lot of you. That's how we know what's going on in your lives. And seriously, we do have some cards that we're going to be handing out to everybody. The last service on Sunday, June 30th, for people who like to have our address, and we'll also put it up on the website. We'd be glad to have you be in touch with us and come to visit us when you're down in the Bethany Beach Way. People have asked what I'm going to do when I retire. The answer is I plan at least for a long time to be a beach bum, as long as I can. And then starting in January, I joined a theater company and I'm directing Noises Off.
Yeah.
And then I'm directing a play called Morris Lesser, which is the songs of Frank Lesser, who wrote Guys and Dolls, Most Happy Fellow, and How to Succeed in Business. And this is a new play that's been written by some people from NBC that we've met who are very involved in theater. And it's going to be lots of fun for me to be involved in theater again in a way that I haven't been able to be for some time. So I plan to do theater. People say you're doing any more writing. The answer is no. I'm done with books. I'm done with books. I'm done with books. Although they were fun. They were fun. We had a lot of fun doing this, but I'm done with books. But I do plan to have a chance to write some other things, just some op-ed pieces and things like that along the way. So that's what my plan is for the immediate future. I hope that part of your plan will be to have a chance to drop us a note when you have a moment. Let us know what's going on in your life. And I can't be more happy that we have this opportunity to be together tonight. I hope to see as many of you as possible on Sunday, June 30th for our last service together. And then we're moving on July 8th. So we've been packing. And Anthony said to me as he was coming, we were coming over today, he said, this is the first time that it really feels like it really happened. It's been so long in planning, and we've been talking in for it. I've been talking about retiring for 4.5 years, so here we are at that moment, and I'm so glad it was. It's nice to go out when people still want to see you and be with you. So I want to say thank you all, and God bless you.
Oh, my heart.
Was the church very? I mean, were the people in the church very supportive? I mean, were they?
You mean of Rusty?
No,
I'm
just
sorry,
saying,
we didn't hear that last. Hold on a second. I have to stop the share. Okay.
Mostly, there were some. We had some rough times. We went through some rough times.
No, I mean the people. I'm saying.
Yeah, but we went through some rough times with some of the people.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but for the most part, people came because it was unusual and because we got to talk back to him during his sermons, and everyone was welcome.
Yeah.
You know, I got railroaded into going to this church by a medical driver who was telling me that my whole problem was I hadn't found Jesus.
Was he lost?
What?
Is Jesus lost?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. So he said, your problem, the reason you have these medical issues is because, you haven't found, you're not connected to Jesus or whatever. And he was preaching to me and picking me up and dropping me off. And finally, he said, I'm going to pick you up tomorrow morning. We're going to go to church. It's in Yonkers. I'm going to pick you up and drive you back. And he drove me to this church, the New Testament church. He said, and when you get up in the morning, the devil's going to get you. You're not going to want to get up, but you got to get up. He's yelling at me, and I said, well, okay, I'll get up, I'll go. And I went, and they had about 250 people. They don't collect any money, and the service is 3 hours.
Whoa.
And, goes through the whole thing. And then the preacher comes out. And I just love this guy. And this is a real heaven and hell, brimstone kind of church. And
Pentecostal, right? Probably.
I'm looking at the flyer. I don't know what it was, but the whole thing, the devil's going to get you, and you got to do all these things. And at the end, I really enjoyed his sermon. And at the end, not that I believed a lot of it, but he brought me up to meet the pastor, and he told him I had these medical issues, and the guy went into a healing routine, and I mean like you see in the movies. I mean, banging me on the forehead, knocking me over.
I did that once. You remember we did that?
And he's dancing around and chanting, and at the end of it, I told him, I said, one of my dreams as an actor has been to play, those Bible revival guys. I said, if I ever get the part, I'm going to model it after you.
It sounds like you could have.
But he didn't heal.
I think you could do it.
I was going out thinking, I might get healed. I didn't go back because it was just such an effort, and to make this guy come back and forth to pick me up. And then the heaven and hell, it just, it was
sometimes that heaven and hell and that brimstone works.
Really?
Yeah. I'll share a quick story with you about that.
Good.
My brother was about to die one evening down at St. Vincent's Hospital. And the doctor took me aside and said, do you want to tell your mother? And Mimi, I think, left. Maybe she couldn't handle it. Maybe.
No, I'm still here.
Oh,
I'm listening. I couldn't sit still anymore. I've been sitting for hours.
All right.
I didn't want you to be.
I'll make this short. We went so far over, but it sort of connects to Rusty, because Rusty's famous saying was, anything is possible. Just like standing in that church, anything is possible. Right. So what happened was that I was standing in this in the ICU. Doctor says to me, your brother's going to die tonight, and we can't do anything about it because the living will that's on file doesn't permit it. And I had a big argument with him about it because they didn't have the latest copy of his living will, and I didn't want it, and I couldn't go to his apartment to get it. I was afraid that he was going to die in the meantime. So I had an altercation with the doctor, and I threatened him. And I put him up against the wall.
Really?
Threatened him that he better make sure that he administer whatever he has to administer to my brother, including IV and stuff, or else I would see him when I got back. And what I did is, it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I went home. I slept for a few hours, 3-4 hours. I picked up my father, and I went up to a church in Connecticut, which has a preacher named Grace Vessels, who is Pentecostal. And when we walked in at 9 o'clock in the morning, my father and I, to see if she could do something miraculous for my brother who was dying, I brought up a photo of him. And I explained the situation. There was a laying on of hands. My father and I both went down. When we got up, she had a longer conversation with us. And then she said to me, your brother is healed. I said, what do you mean he's healed? Your brother is healed as long as he accepts Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. So I had my video camera. I took a video of her saying that. I'm thinking I might really have helped. I get to the hospital. He's not in the ICU. I thought he died. And they moved him out of the ICU. And I was frantic. And nurse saw me running around, and she says, no, your brother, he's in on the second floor. When I got there, he was sitting in a chair, sitting up. When I left him, he was dying. He was sitting up. 4 of his friends were around him, and he was healthy.
And what happened?
We don't know how it happened.
No, I'm saying.
What happened to cause him to die then if he was healthy?
He lived ongoing then?
No.
He lived for another 2 or 3 months, which allowed him to get closure. Whereas if he died that evening, nobody would have known, that he was dying or anything. So anyway, it's sort of like I believe anything. Anything.
That's amazing.
And that also told me to speak your mind. Like I would have been beside myself if I didn't speak up, and he ended up dying because of missing a piece of paper, like a living will, a healthcare proxy.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story, Frank. Fran, sorry, I got to get used to that.
Thank you. Hey, it's only 10 years,
Right.
Yeah. So
I haven't been there for 8 of them.
So she, and another thing that came out of that, I got to call you back. I'm on a show. This is maybe even more important. I was knowing that I was right a lot of times with my relationship with my brother. He was my brother, younger by 3 years. I'm hearing he's not. I'm straight, I guess. He's not. He's gay. I'm financially successful, whatever. I'm married. I have a child. He doesn't. And I wasn't pushing that on him, but that's the way he was feeling. I think he was feeling that. And I was insensitive to that. So whenever I got into a discussion with him, it was like I knew better. I'm the older brother. I'm smarter. Meanwhile, I wasn't. He was 5 times smarter than me. So what that happened was when I went back to the room and he was sitting up in the room and he was healthy, instead of just going up to him and hugging him, instead of doing that, what I did is I said, Robert, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. Grace Vessel saved you. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I went to the church. We prayed for you. And she says, you're healed. And here I have it on video for you to see. Like I was so proud of myself. Mm-hmm. I was happy that he's alive, but I was proud of myself.
He said it was his doing.
I didn't need to say that. So he says to me, oh yeah? He says, look at that TV. Now he's saying this, he's deaf or he's hearing impaired, but he's understanding me and I'm understanding him. Just look at that TV. It was hanging from the ceiling. I said, what do you see? He says. I said, I see a newscast. And you see somebody talking about the news. He says, no, what do you see? I say, well, I see somebody talking about the news to someone else. He says, yeah, exactly. What you see and what I see are the same, but it's very different. You see that she saved me and that maybe you were instrumental in her saving me. Don't you know that I've been praying
I saved myself.
To God that I would live for the last several years since being HIV positive? Like, in other words, didn't you didn't think that?
Credit, right?
I didn't give him any credit.
He was saved
so
himself.
The relationship changed in that instant, and we had the next 2 to 3 months.
Your brother was gay?
My brother was gay, yeah. My brother was gay, and he was HIV positive for 17 years. And then he died because his liver shut down from all the harsh meds, the AZT and all the harsh meds. So
I'm heartbroken to hear this, Fran.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
The very end, those 2 or 3 months were fabulous. Before that, he would call me up now and then, and he would say, he was trying to get things going with me, and I was too
We were too
friggin'
busy or should have
It was
stopped.
stupid.
But we can't live in.
But I can't be guilty, like Pat was saying, or I can't be guilty. But he would
You
say,
did do a lot.
sometimes I would go, but I mean, he would call me up in the middle of the day and say, you want to go to a play tonight or at 6 o'clock? I'm in the middle of work. How am I going to do that? Give me some notice or whatever. But anyway, those last 2 or 3 months, we got to really talk honestly with one another. And that was the miracle that happened of him. And also he got closure with so many other people in his life. So that at his wake, there were 200 or 300 people that came to his
A
wake.
lot of people he knew.
And they all, were better about how he died than if he had died on that table in the ICU. Anyway, that story went longer than I thought.
8:45.
But anyway, can we say in Our Father? And
Yes.
Yeah.
all
Do
right?
you mind?
Yes. Go
Do you
ahead.
mind if I say it? I don't say it the way I say it the way Rusty wrote it in the song.
Good.
Say it.
Do it.
Do that one.
Do it. Is it
Do
all right
it.
if we say kind of a
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Say it any way that has meaning for you.
That's it. We'll let Ann and Pat also know that Rusty wrote many of the songs in the
He
service.
changed a lot.
He
of
changed the liturgy a lot. He was his own.
Sounds like a beautiful soul. And you,
Oh,
you have to understand how blessed you are that you had someone like that. in
I
your
wouldn't
life.
be me. I wouldn't be me that I am now without Rusty.
Yeah,
He sounds amazing.
Yeah, he was a soul saver, truly,
yeah.
and
He was.
yeah, really remarkable in so many ways.
They needed him. They needed him up there. They needed him. Now just think of the world that we're in and the turmoil that we're in. I can't help but believe that certain souls are chosen right now to help, on a grander scale. I don't know, just me.
I hope he gets it done.
Well, I think we are all chosen to do that.
To do our work.
To do our part. Yes.
Yep. And whatever his part is, they needed it there, not here,
Yep.
I guess.
As writers and healers and singers and songwriters and.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, say hello to Pete for us.
Yeah, I will. He's doing some work right now.
Okay. All right. So Mimi's going to lead us in prayer.
Okay.
In Our Father, Rusty style.
Okay, and feel free to say anything you like out loud or in your head as I do it. O God, the breath, the life of all. Let this light create a shining heart within, and your counsel rule till by your loving call, the oneness of your spirit voids our sin. Grant each day our needs in bread and insight, and loose the cords of error that still bind, as we release the strands we hold so tight of others' faults who share our human kind. Don't let mere surface things come to us diluted, but keep us clear from actions yet unripe. For to you belongs the ruling mind, included in such a life that acts and does the type of song that beautifies all, and from age to age breaks down the wall where in faith I pledge to be true. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I remember that.
Beautiful. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Fran.
Good night, everyone. Good seeing you all.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Nice to meet you,
Fran.
Ann and Pat.
Nice
Nice
to
to
meet
see you,
you
Mimi
too.
and
Nice to see you,
Shirley.
Kelly.
Nice to meet
Fran.
you.
Nice
Yes.
to connect.
I got one thing to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go blonde.
No.
Oh, you saw the picture. Okay.
Well,
You look cute as a blonde. I agree.
it passed so quick. I really didn't get a chance, but
Well, I'll
that's
send
one
you
of
a
the good
gloss.
things about
I'll
being
send you an
feminine, you
AF
can
by
change
11 o'clock.
You gotta
I
laugh.
remember the first time you came to St. John's,
Was-
really clearly, and you stood in the back for a while, just
Oh,
checking the place out.
As a man, you remember that?
Yeah, yep,
Oh.
I do, very clearly. All right,
I was
I'll see
even
you
going at that
Saturday.
point.
Okay,
All
bye,
right.
folks.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank
you
take care.
so much.
Good night.
7
Take
o'clock.
care.
Sign in early
care.
if you want. We'll get.
Okay.
And
Hope a
all
lot of
right,
people are
great.
gonna come.
Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of people. will.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd say about
More-
20
Bye.
people. Be
More
in.
memories.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye. And bring
Stay.
photos if you want to hold them up or whatever.
You're not doing tomorrow, are you, Fran?
No, I'm not doing tomorrow.
We don't do
Okay.
that.
I'm
It's too
not
much.
doing tomorrow. It's too much. But
Just
I
once a
wanted to
week.
mention to Shirley. She's gone.
Yeah, she's gone.
I think so. It's
I
just
wanted
us.
to mention to Shirley. She said she had a DVD. I made a DVD. Myself and Rob Seitz, who you'll see on a Saturday. We made a DVD about Rusty. I think it was in anticipation of him retiring. And what we did is no one knew, Rusty didn't know we were making it. We went around to people. I think the idea may have happened because I did something similar for my brother, actually. We went around to people and say,
What do you think?
how did you meet
What's your impact?
Rusty, and what impact has he had in your life? And, like 30 seconds or a minute. And we strung them all together in this wonderful DVD.
Did Rusty ever see it?
And Rusty saw it.
Yeah.
And I can't
Find it. She has it.
And I had like 10 of them, extras.
And
but
Shirley
anyway,
has it.
but Shirley has it. So maybe I'll be
You'll
able to
find
get it from her before Saturday, and I don't know how. Then
I do my family night on Zoom on Saturday, so I'm sorry I won't be able to do it.
Okay.
But we do it every Saturday because they live like all over the United States and stuff. So it's like I do it. But I
You've been
just
on
want
every
to.
time, so thank you.
And thanks
I'm
so
on.
much.
I love.
You've been
I
on
love
every
you.
call, so thank you.
I feel blessed that we found each other, and certain people find each other in this world, and right. I think so.
I believe that. Yeah.
I totally do, and I support everything, and my heart is broken for you that you lost such a beautiful human being in your life, because I'm grieving my own too. So I and you just, before the virus, I lost like a big brother, best friend, everything. And I just go outside and I look at the sky and I'm like, I just don't get why you're gone. Like, I just don't get it. But I try, my best friend being a medium, and I've had contact with my loved ones through mediumship, and
Yes, I have too.
completely validating everything. And I believe 100% with my heart. So just, talk to him, pray to him, and listen for the response. It's there if you're quiet and you look for the signs. If you just sit and you focus and you meditate, and I know, Pat, you're into meditation like me. If you meditate, you get something will come to you, and ask, say, hey, Rusty, if you hear me, if you hear what I need, just give me a sign. And look, the sign will come, it'll come.
Pat's smiling.
Well,
do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. The quiet is the key.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get quiet, because the mind is a chatterbox. And we there's a lot of talk in the political world now of a deep state. And the ultimate deep state is the human mind. We are not our minds. Our minds.
I have friends that have done a film called The Deep State.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I actually believe in a deep state, but not to get into that, just the idea that the ultimate deep state is the mind. And we have to quiet the mind and take ourselves back. We are not our minds, and our minds have taken us over. When you quiet your mind, that's when these other things become possible. They're not really possible if you have a busy mind.
100%.
Right.
I agree. I'll say to my grandmother was my best friend, and when I need like a concrete, I need to know you're here, I'll just, like, right before I meditate or whatever, I'm like, I need the damn sign. Like, Grandma, please, something between you and me, you need to show it to me. I need to know right now. And within a day or two, I'll see something. It's just like solidifies it, and I'm like, yes. So I believe with all my heart, So take care.
Take care. Have a good night.
If you have a chance, go on to Facebook.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at all. I've
And
been
look at
I've been through. It's been a little bit of the past two. I've lost a lot of people the past 3 weeks, and my head is just like ready to
Over the
explode.
virus?
Yeah, and like people my age, no pre-existing conditions, no nothing, and I found out my dad's cousin who passed of the virus. He died of the I thought he died of the virus. They gave him the hydrochloroquine that they were pushing.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack in the hospital from the hydrochloroquine.
Oh.
Healthy as an ox. This guy was never sick a day in
That
his
was
life.
the big risk with that, was
And
stroke and heart.
yeah, he had a heart attack, and that's what you know. I didn't know that, but my friend's body is still in a bag somewhere and not buried for 2 weeks. And you know what? Like, we were childhood friends, and when I think about it, I'm just overwhelmed, and my depression is really bad. Like, my mental health is really suffering. So, you know, I'm trying my best. What can I say?
And
You know?
think
Thank
about
you for whatever you did do.
what Rusty's involvement here might be. I'm glad I knew you. I've been changed for the better. However you changed me, I've been changed for good and for the better. And in the lyrics for that song, that I think
I love that song.
that
I love
song.
that.
She knows.
I love it.
She knows
I know it.
it's
Wicked
on-
is my show. I'm a big theater
It's
person
on
myself.
Facebook. I have the lyrics right on
Because her
Facebook.
musical.
You couldn't,
I'm gonna look. Yeah.
yeah, and it weren't clear as it was sung, clear enough. But and I didn't appreciate it at the time. But there.
I gotta go.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Cat,
Well,
take care.
Kelly.
Okay.
We're all gonna go.
Bye.
It's 9 o'clock.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Love you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And keep the faith.
Yeah, keep
You
it.
too.
Keep the faith.
Thank you.
This is the thing.